The Beatles honed their skills as a live band in Hamburg, Germany, which is about 800 miles away from their hometown of Liverpool. Lennon told Rolling Stone magazine in 1970, "We sold out. The music was dead before we even went on the theatre tour of Britain. We reduced our hour or 2 hours of playing, and which we were glad in one way, to 20 minutes, and go and repeat the same 20 minutes every night. The Beatles' music died then as musicians. That's why we never improved as musicians." The Beatles' last ever concert took place 5,000 miles from their native Liverpool on August 29, 1966, at Candlestick Park in San Francisco, California, USA. 4 months later, the Monkees' first full live concert was held, 2,400 miles away from the US mainland in Honolulu, Hawaii, on December 3rd, 1966, in front of a sold-out crowd at the Honolulu International Center Arena. It almost looks as though someone didn't want any embarrassing moments played live on the group's American home turf. The big question for me and many other skeptics, given all the talk of them being a fabricated group, was how well could the Monkees play live? Which was answered during the summer of 1967, when the group embarked on a 28-city tour through the United States and England, initially with the Jimi Hendrix Experience billed as the opening act. Jimi Hendrix opened for the Monkees with his newly formed Experience, which has been deemed one of the strangest pairings in rock and roll history. But the Monkees wanted credibility, and Hendrix needed a US audience. So it was really the perfect marriage of convenience. Hendrix ended up playing only 7 of the tour's 29 dates though, dropping out after having to contend nightly with thousands of impatient, jeering teeny boppers yelling, "We want the Monkees! We want the Monkees!" On July 16, 1967, Hendrix had had enough, and allegedly flipped the Forest Hills Queen's New York audience off before throwing down his guitar and leaving the stage. After that 7th show, Hendrix asked to be released. Lillian Roxon, a music critic who was travelling with the tour, issued a press release with a facetious excuse to cover up the truth. Roxon claimed that the Daughters of the American Revolution complained that Hendrix's music was corrupting the morals of America's youth because it was too erotic. This may have been facetious, but the press took it as fact. The Jimi Hendrix Experience was put together with 2 British musicians, drummer Mitch Mitchell and bass player Noel Redding, by the former Animals bassman Chas Chandler. It rarely is the Jimi Hendrix Experience described as a manufactured band, unlike the group they were supporting. I mean, it's not as if Hendrix and his bandmates were even born in the same country. Coincidentally, Redding and Mitchell were first recorded playing on John Lennon's father's outing as a would-be pop singer on his That's My Life, My Love, My Home single, released 2 years earlier in 1965. It's a small world, isn't it? That's Freddie on the sleeve of his black and white Masonic checker single. At John Lennon's behest, Beatles manager Brian Epstein saw to it that Freddie Lennon's bid for showbiz was unsuccessful, and arranged to have the single pulled. The Monkees brought Monkeemania to the land of Beatlemania when they visited England to perform 5 shows over 3 days on stage at London's Empire Pool, Wembley. The scenes of screaming fans gathered at the airport to welcome their idols were reminiscent of those seen just a few years earlier, back when the Beatles were found. On Thursday, the 29th of June, just over 12 hours after flying into London from Paris, the Monkees attended one of the largest pop press conferences ever held in Britain. Gathered in the huge Buckingham Suite ballroom at Kensington's Royal Garden Hotel were more than 300 reporters, magazine writers, press photographers, radio interviewers and camera crews representing TV and cinema newsreels. This was the first time the Monkees had given a press conference of this type. The mainly female fans gathered outside the group's hotel were a symbol of the cyclic nature of fan mania, from Sinatra mania to Beatlemania to Monkeemania. Inside the hotel, the press asked the usual probing yet cliched questions and received the usual flippant answers in return, such as, "Some of the Beatles have admitted taking LSD. Also, 2 of the Rolling Stones who are on drug charges claim drugs help them in their music. Do you think it is necessary for pop groups to take drugs?" To which Mickey asked the reporter, "Do you like the Beatles album?" "Yes," replied the reporter. "Well?" asked Mickey. Talking about drugs, the Beatles smoked during their press conferences and interviews. In contrast, ashtrays provided during press conferences for the Monkees remained empty, probably because they had a clean image to preserve for their younger audience. Some of the leading British pop music publications, such as the New Musical Express, had gained exclusive access to the Monkees during their stay in London, and gave their readers a written insight into what it was like to be an insider in the Monkees camp. One girl wrote to the New Musical Express and asked if she could meet the Monkees. Unfortunately, it wasn't the kind of meeting where the artist mingled with the press. The Monkees were kept on the press conference stage throughout, and the 14-year-old Jenny George was quickly shepherded out at the end. So Jenny didn't get to shake hands with her hero Davey. Jenny still liked Davey best. But Mickey was too glib, and Mike wore sunglasses indoors, which wasn't the thing. And Peter spoke too quickly, but she still likes them all very much. In her Sammy Says column in 16 magazine, the Top of the Pops hit girl Samantha Just was able to give her readers a more intimate insight to the Monkees in London, especially as she became part of the story itself, as romance blossomed and led to marriage with Mickey DeLenz. But DeLenz's self-indulgence took its toll on their marriage, and the couple divorced in 1975. Talking of monkey romance, Glaswegian-born singer Lulu, who was the support act for the Monkees' Wembley shows, had what the press called a little-known love affair with Davy Jones, which ended in heartbreak, according to Lulu, when she heard whispers about another girl. The other girl being Linda Haynes, who, Lulu found out later, was pregnant with David Jones's child. Linda later became the first of Jones's 3 wives. But her romance with Davy was all very innocent, according to Lulu, and nothing untoward happened. Jones set the record straight when he wrote in his autobiography, "In show business or any other type of business that exposes you to the media, when you're seen out with a member of the opposite sex, the press immediately assumes that the next step is marriage. Ridiculous, really. I couldn't have. My girlfriend would have punched me out." Unfortunately, both Samantha Just and Lulu's fairy tale romance with the Monkee didn't work out, and they didn't live happily ever after together. But 2 years later, Lulu got herself a BG instead. Alas, it was a turbulent marriage that also ended in divorce in 1973. Both the Rolling Stones and the Beatles played live in front of various audiences before being signed to a record label, and 1960s film footage of both bands playing live can easily be found on YouTube. But being initially created for television, it's a different matter when it comes to the Monkees. I'm yet to find any natural, unsynced footage of the band playing live anywhere on any stage during their height in the 60s. There is the Monkees Live 1967 live compilation album, which is compiled from 3 shows during their 1967 United States tour, which Monkees fans had to wait 20 years to hear when it was released in 1987. The songs on the Live 1967 album mostly feature the Monkees themselves, singing and playing, although the solo spots for each member features music by their opening act, the Sundowners. To my knowledge, no film footage exists of their historic London Wembley Empire Pool concerts, and the performances aren't included on that Monkees Live 1967 album. So we're dependent upon the reports of the sprinkling of reporters who went to see if the Monkees could play their own instruments. The Echoes, the group who had played the introductory numbers and who later on backed the Monkees during their solo numbers, were a bit overpowered by the occasion, according to John Hugh, reporter for the respected Beat Instrumental magazine. John Hugh also reported that he heard someone mutter in the audience that they should have used Sounds Incorporated, who were a saxophone-led instrumental-style sextet. Judging by these comments, the sound must have been a bit thin in the arena, despite the Vox amplification. Still, most fans had come to scream, which after a few words from Jimi Savile, yes, him again, is exactly what they did as soon as the Monkees appeared on the stage. When it became apparent that this was no very accomplished instrumental outfit, playing the tune exactly as it should be played, according to the Beat Instrumental reporter, but 4 talented actors who were going to give a performance. The only support artist was Lulu, backed by the Echoes, and she had the very difficult task of keeping 10,000 Monkee fans interested for over half an hour. Her act would definitely have been better if she had been on for half the time. But she almost achieved the impossible and received a big cheer when she went off. John Hughes' column header declared that Monkees critics had been proven wrong by their Wembley Empire Pool performance, and went on to report the most startling difference between the Monkees' whole act and most other top groups was the sheer professionalism of the whole thing. The Beatles always struck me as amateurish in their in-between song announcements. The Monkees never went walking around the stage sorting out guitar leads and adjusting amps. Having seen the Beatles play 20-minute long sets, which would have been 15 minutes long had John Lennon had his way, Beat Instrumental reporter John Hugh was clearly impressed by the Monkees' performance and value for money. Altogether they were on stage for 70 minutes, and when they all came back to do the last 3 numbers, the audience was in a frenzy of excitement. Yes, the Monkees can play very well, but the performance they put on just about beats anything else I've seen for sheer fan appeal.